What's up?
What's
This
up?
is Captain Gimpy.
And the
that's
Zenboro.
This one.
Yeah.
This one.
Oh.
This video, welcome to part 2, but you'll see it as part 1 of Friends Talking Movies, the Lazy Sunday edition, because I didn't do shit. So we're going to review the BlackKKlansman.
Yep.
And this comes as a recommendation from the dude over at Blacktastic News, telling me that by the time the movie's over, I will not look at the people that play the various roles the same again, even if I know them from other places. That may or may not be true. We'll find out. This is a Spike Lee movie, brought to Spike Lee by Jordan Peele. We all know him from Key and Peele and Get Out. And what are your expectations?
Let's see. To be honest, I really don't know. I'm going into this with an open mind.
You haven't seen any Spike Lee movies in your life, have you?
I don't remember.
So, functionally, that's a no. I, on the other hand, have. My first one was Jungle Fever.
Oh, I saw that one.
Oh, well then, there you go. And then there's Do the Right Thing. And then there's a bunch of other ones, but my favorite is probably Malcolm X. So with that in mind, I expect it to have some elements of comedy, because Spike Lee is good at using comedy to keep a very important discussion going, even if the movie isn't a comedy. He just breaks it up with it, because you have to be able to keep the audience engaged, and I think that's one of Spike Lee's best techniques. Using funny stuff to break up something serious. We all know that it's based on a true story. So I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll see you after the show.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey guys, what's going on? This is the captain and this is the burro.
Yep, Zenboro. Yeah.
So, we just got back from seeing Spike Lee's new joint, the BlackKKlansman.
Yeah.
And, dude, so he directs Denzel Washington's kid, and I believe he plays Ron Stallworth. And he's not his dad, but that's a good thing, and he has a bright future ahead of him. This movie will probably make some people angry.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of those people.
Me neither.
I felt lots of things. Lots and lots of things. But before we get to that part of it, I wanted to comment on some of the technical shit.
Yeah.
The shots that Spike Lee chose to use to construct his story were brilliantly chosen.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean all of them.
From the jump cuts.
All of them. He used jump cuts in the most masterful way I've ever seen them used in cinema in my short 34-year thus far life.
Yeah.
And I've watched a shitload of movies. And I'm going to let you know right now that no matter what you think of my opinion of this movie, what you think of Spike Lee, go watch it. Now I'm going to give you my opinion.
Yeah.
So what was this movie about?
So it takes place in the 70s, and it's about an undercover cop, black cop, named Ron Stallworth. And he has the bold idea to infiltrate the Ku Klux Klan at a time when David Duke was the Grand Wizard.
Or Grand Dragon, depending
Or Grand Dragon, yeah. He was the national director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the new title for the Grand Dragon, by the way.
Yep.
It's still being used.
Yep. So he calls them on the phone, and he pretends to be a white person. And when they want to meet him in person, they actually had another guy named Zimmerman. Yeah. Kylo Ren.
Which, by the way, if you guys didn't know this, Adam Driver can act.
Yeah.
And not just like, like we see him in Star Wars. I mean, the dude can act. And he's one of the... He is a very powerful character in this movie.
Yeah.
As is... Ron Stallworth has to be. Like, the story's about what he did.
Yep.
But as a supporting cast member, Adam Driver was pretty amazing his damn self.
Yeah, it's definitely Oscar worthy, I think. Yeah.
And so, okay, here's the thing. This video is going to remain basically unedited. So, all the pauses, sit through and watch to the end.
Yeah.
Please do. So here's the thing about this movie. It was a return to what Spike Lee does absolutely best, and that is be Spike Lee. Everything I said in the first video that we did, like, you know, in the intro part, in that, you know, that part over here, that intro behind us, he did that. And then he blew all my expectations out of the water. Because he did all of what I wanted, and then he gave me something that I wasn't necessarily looking for, but I secretly was hoping for.
Yeah, this film definitely punched a hole in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there are a couple of scenes that I want to bring up, and since there are only trailers of this film out right now, I can't put the scenes in the video, but there is this scene where he juxtaposes a conversation that the Black Student Union in Colorado, at Colorado State, I believe, was having, where they were being told a very famous story about a very famous lynching. If you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The kind of thing that should never, ever, ever happen in this country.
Yeah.
Ever. But it does. And there was a Black Power rally being juxtaposed with the induction of new members into the KKK with a White Power rally. And the way that Spike Lee does it is so unsettling that it forces you to think.
Yeah.
Forces you. You don't have an option. And that's one of the things I loved about this movie, is he did make you laugh. And sometimes he made you laugh uncomfortably. And then he put two things together that you will never see coming, and he does this throughout the film.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you this right now. If Spike Lee does not win an award for this, I'm going to yell at somebody. Because it's that good.
And you know what's funny? During that scene you just talked about, I was unsure if even the audience really understood what he was doing.
I was telling my Burro friend over here that I could feel the wind in the theater as certain things went over everyone's heads, no matter what color they were in the audience.
And they weren't all white. They were actually a lot of different varieties. It
was one of the most diverse audiences I have been in the theater to sit with since The Purge.
Yeah.
We went to go see the first Purge. It was equally...
Yep.
It was just like that.
Yeah.
And just as many things in the first Purge. I know you're thinking there's nothing in the first Purge that would go over your head, but trust me, there was.
Yeah.
There was. And some people left angry. In both movies.
Yep.
So, normally I don't make such bold statements, but if this movie bothers you, and you're unwilling to sit through it because it makes you uncomfortable, we're not friends. Because the people I choose to surround myself with in my life are the people who can sit and have uncomfortable conversations and learn from them. And this movie is an uncomfortable conversation.
Yes, it is.
The master of the jump cut, the master of joking and uncomfortable laughter and drama did it in a way that I could have never dreamed. Like, at first I thought this movie was going to be like some silly comedy.
The trailer makes you think that.
Yeah, they marketed it that way. And, this reminds me. Topher Grace, the dude we know as Eric Foreman from That 70s Show, is still Topher Grace. But, there are moments in there where he had me thinking, damn, he, fortunately and unfortunately, captured the charisma of David Duke.
Yeah.
Now, if you know anything about Topher Grace in real life, he's far from having that kind of charisma as a person, and he's as far from the ideology of David Duke as you could probably get. But the thing is, there are lots of actors in this film. I'll link to the IMDB page so you can check them out yourself. That we know and love from other TV shows, other movies, but they disappear completely into their characters.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons I think this movie shines so damn well.
Mm-hmm. It pulls no punches, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made me angry, uncomfortable, and it shows how entrenched the white supremacy movement is in America.
Even if you're not a white supremacist, I guarantee you've echoed their own ideologies without even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's that insidious.
And it doesn't matter if you look like me, if you look more like him, somewhere in the middle, darker, or way lighter.
Yeah.
You've said something that they have used to push their own ideology at one point or another in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple things I wanted to say. It's possible for people to change. Do the vast majority of people alter their life so drastically? No. But a few years ago, a friend of mine was taking, it was either a sociology class or an ethnic studies class, and she would share reading materials with me. And she was given an article about a guy who grew up several decades in the KKK. And he got involved in community organizing outside the KKK because he had so much experience inside of it, ironically. So they gave him a community organizer's job. And he met so many people of random backgrounds and colors that he started to question his own ideology that he was raised with. And he left the KKK and now is an advocate for stamping out racism. If he can do it, we can do better.
Yeah.
And see, this is what Spike Lee does. He uses the rhetoric of hatred to teach you why you should love one another. And I don't mean that in some weird, like, hippie way. I mean, it's hard, dude.
Yeah.
But we can do it.
Yep.
And that's what he wants us all to know by watching this film. I swear. It says it for you at the end if you stay to the end of the credits. It says it for you.
Yep.
You don't need to think about it. He tells you. And you know what? He's right. So, I'm going to leave you with my favorite Bob Marleyism. Be the light that lights up the darkness. That's how we win. Did you have a story you wanted to share, boy? Because I know you do.
Well, you know, one day when I was heading towards class, I take the light rail train, and on this particular day, it was really crowded with people. I had to stand on the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a dude, black dude, and he just started preaching. Straight up preaching. He was preaching about...
It wasn't the Jesus stuff, right?
No, this isn't a religious preaching. This was an intellectual sermon.
From what you told me, he was laying it down.
Yeah. An older man, it looked like he was in his late 40s. He was talking about how our education system is structured to where minority children could not pass the SAT. He was saying how his peers, black, Mexican, Asian, they weren't encouraged to study by their teachers, and their teachers were white, as he put it.
And some of them were actively discouraged from studying.
Yeah, and a lot of them failed. He also talked about how growing up as a little African-American boy reading books, he was accused by his black friends that, why are you reading that white stuff? And white people just laughed at him because they thought he was just trying to, quote-unquote, clean up his image.
Or be white.
Or be white, as he said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
and it was just, I was just kind of listening to him, and you could see people on the train, like their faces were a mix of fear and anger and just straight like, this guy must be crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, you're probably the person who puts their earphones when they're on the train and just ignores everything. I mean, sometimes I do that, but on this day, yeah, I couldn't.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was done. I lied. So here's the thing. Like the dude in your story was saying, I've witnessed this firsthand. First of all, I don't know if you've noticed, but at best I'm only half white.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of me is islandy. So I turned out like this.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, there's a thing I'm sitting on. It has wheels and it ain't your office chair.
Nope.
So people either classify you as a retard when you're in my position. If you don't like that word, I'm sorry, but that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's all they ever thought you could be, is smart because you're in a wheelchair and you got nothing else. And I would see friends of mine who were weirdly, like, not very many of my friends during elementary and middle school and high school were white. I didn't do it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
There were some there, but it just kind of happened because the schools I went to were so diverse that white people ended up being the minority. And I would see my friends being teased just because they like comic books or because they could speak what they considered proper English.
Mm-hmm.
So their friends would say, oh, you're trying to sound white, or you're trying to be white, or you hate yourself. I'm like, dude, he or she just trying to do the things that they like doing.
Yeah.
It's not because of any, like, self-hate necessarily. And in fact, most of the time it's not. They just like it.
Yeah.
People like Spider-Man because Spider-Man's a dork with superpowers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I liked him. He didn't look like me, but he was a nerd like I was, and
yeah, there was something to identify with.
he could do cool things, and I was like, I want to do cool things, and now I do cool things.
Yeah.
So I'm better than Spider-Man because I'm real.
Yep.
But, what I want to say, dudes, is just let people be who they are, man.
Mm-hmm.
When you let people express themselves, the chance for hatred to creep in and take hold is very, very low.
Yeah.
It's still going to happen where we get turned around and screwed up.
Yeah.
But we will, and we must do better. What you're about to see is going to make you uncomfortable.
Yep.
But I promise next time it won't be like that. And we'll see you next time at the movies.
Yep.
I forgot to say, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you happen to be drinking Haterade today, go ahead and leave your comments down below.
Mm-hmm.
But just remember, just as free as you are to express them, I'm also free to ignore you. Bye.
People, because I believe that today in Charlottesville, this is a first step toward making a realization of something that Trump alluded to earlier in the campaign, which is this is the first step toward taking America back. Yeah.